Okay, so coming immediately back to the object of interest regarding currency as an artifact or as a catalyst event, which the catalyst events are actually specific areas of concern regarding these artifacts, which artifacts, examples of artifacts, currency, sexuality, religion. These are prime values in the value system of humanity as an overall entity. These are the primary values that are inherent in our system. They are artifacts of the first cause, remnants of tomorrow. They have always existed, they will always exist because they are representative of the initial fracturing of our identity as a fracturing of the identity of God, essentially. That's the concept behind it, the concept of God. Not religion's God, mind you. Religion is a piece of this. Now, as I stated before, the priority here, overall premise of it all is the relationship between matter and value, and how value affects matter, which the way that we see it currently, our understanding is that matter creates value, that an object has a value attached to it, whereas the reality is the other way around. We're witnessing things backwards. We're witnessing time in reverse. The actuality is that value creates matter. Matter is attached to values. And that's how magnetic compatibility works. The laws of attraction are based on values that pull matter. And there are so many different, such intricate measures by which matter maneuvers and is negotiated through this, that there are there can be several pieces in play when you walk down the street telling you to walk forward to get to where you're going. It's not just your thought that's guiding you, the world is guiding you. There are magnetics in play that are gravity fields that are pulling you in different directions. I mean, your body just kind of moves around on its own. You're along for the ride, and you can negotiate with it. You can manipulate what your body does, but you aren't actually directly controlling your experience. You're witnessing it, and you are informing yourself as to what to be. You're that consciousness. You're the driving influence behind the negotiations, your body, the maneuvering of your body. And that's why we promote this ideology of consideration regarding your body as being something that you own, something that you have. Your life is something that you own, and life itself is what you are, and your experience, your body, is something that you have and you create, and you guide it, you direct it. Now, speaking to currency as it stands, obviously, we've already described how greed and envy and jealousy come into play to create this idea of wanting and desiring and just necessity regarding our desires rather than our actual needs. And, this is going to be hearkening back on our development as a personality, because that love, that attention that you can pull from others is what boosts you, what makes you feel good about yourself, what makes you feel accomplished. And accomplishment is a primary value here, that we have accomplishment backing up the idea of currency, that currency is an accomplishment in and of itself. And so the very concept of currency is made to represent value insofar as trade is concerned, where if you have something that somebody else requires and they have something that you desire, you're going to trade for it. If you're capable of doing that, you're going to go ahead and make a trade for it. And two people have something that each other desire or require, they'll make a trade for it. But currency steps in and replaces that trade and backs it up with this debt-based ideology, wherein we have faith that there is something of value backing the currency that we hold. And so we bust our asses working hard to make it, to collect this currency, where in fact there is no actual value backing it up. There's nothing of value to be traded for it, but you trade it for things that have certain values, of course. And it's not a terrible idea. I mean, it's not inherently bad. There's nothing wrong with it. But when we get to the point where we're leaning towards regarding economic value over actual health and survival value and an ability to function and effectively, develop proper coping mechanisms in society, that's where money takes a turn to the deep end. Again, these things need to be balanced. We've gone over this in the Vices and Virtue video on my original channel, which we'll go over again here for principle dynamics at another point. But there's a whole fuck ton of values packed into this uniquely useless object that we call the modern dollar, and variations of such. That, for example, the very color of it. Now, the paper itself, we know, is growth, is life. It comes from trees. It's backed by life itself in general and in nature. And then there is the color of it that we printed as green, which Rachel asked in her video that I originally responded to. How colors affect you. Well, this is how colors affect you. I'm going to explain an example right here. Green, we know, through photosynthesis and what's that shit called that plants make? Whatever it's called. What? Whatever it's called that plants make that causes for them to be green. We know that this is... forget that, but plants are green is the point. Green is all over the place. It's the color of earth. It's the color of growth. It's the color of life. And we know this. Our brains recognize these things. This is how a personality is programmed and becomes a personal identity, is that there are certain values in play that are consistent overall. Green equals life, equals growth. Our brain recognizes that. Our brain recognizes all of these values that are in play, whether we're paying attention to them or not. The brain knows, and it regards them as such, and it reacts. And the brain is controlling our physiology. The brain is controlling our concerns, our personality. The brain is controlling our life. And it recognizes these values in play, and it reacts to them naturally, innately, autonomically. So green equals life, equals growth. The brain knows that. We know that. And so we react in that way by considering it as such. And the really green in and of itself is implying two things. As I said, digging into the relationship between matter and value, there's going to be two primary, I suppose you could say, like realms that are in play, which are the two chlorophyll. So what the plants make that turns them green, we know this is representative of life. This implies life. There are two primary implications presented by the color green itself innately, and the value itself in its relationship to matter is operating under two motives, two causalities, which is going to be association and implication. There is no actual objective reality behind anything. It's associative and it's implicative. It's what things imply. Green implies two things. It implies grounding because it's the ground. Green is on the ground. Green is in the trees. Green is coming up from the ground. Green is ground. The brain sees that. It knows that. Recognizes that as such. Grounding implies stability. Grounding implies resolution or foundation. And the second thing that green implies, as I've already said, is growth, life, and growth itself is associative or is implicative of evolution. Of growth implies growth as being division, and isolation implies growth as a person, as a personality. It implies personal evolution. And so this idea of growth, which is backing the color green, which is backing money, is backing our sense of personal accomplishment. And that's we know this because we have the idea of adulthood, which is, it's a reality, adulthood, and maturity, which is held in high regard. And so the idea of evolving as a person, of growing, is held in high regard. And so we have this backing the idea of currency or the present object of currency. It's the value backing the actual worth that we place upon this object, and at the same time, green being the color of money as we've had it for so long. Anybody will tell you green is the color of money. They know that. The brain's now operatively programmed to designate that, and so it effectively reflects itself like a two-way mirror. It continues to perpetuate this idea in our brain, in our mind, of value, of consistent behind it, the color of money being backed by growth, and the implication of growth is also implying value now unto itself. It's reflectively perpetuating itself, and this is designed. This is not an accident. This is very specifically designed this way to manipulate the workings of the brain, and it's beautiful. It's a work of fucking art. The dollar bill is a valuable work of art in that sense, but it's still, as I said, a uniquely worthless object. Can't really use it for much, but it's packed with symbolism also. In case you haven't noticed, the dollar bill is packed with symbolism that doesn't seem to mean much to most people who aren't paying attention to it, but it's packed with symbolism regarding figures of authority, regarding people that are to be admired, people that are held in high regard, not necessarily only presidential figures, but for the most part, most of them are presidential figures, except for the one really. And these are leaders. These are people to be held in high regard, and their face is on there. That's implicative of this thing being representative of that person. You're going to be more like that person by having this, essentially, is the idea that backs that. That's what the brain is thinking for you. It's also packed with a whole fuck ton of symbolism representing spiritual concerns and considerations. And these harken way back to the beginning, to the origin of us as a people, like the pyramid, the all-seeing eye. These symbols our brain recognizes. This is programmed into our DNA. That's what our DNA does. It informs us, and this information is in there. It's always been there. And so we hold these things in regard to the property, and the association of property to currency it's implicative of the very concept of God itself. We have money, and it even says, in God we trust, that associates the currency to the concept of God and effectively causes for it to become an objectified idea of what God is. And we use it to purchase, we use it to manipulate the world, we use it chiefly as our method by which to operate. And so it becomes our God in our daily living. So that's what I'm going to say for now. I'm going to cut this here again so that you guys watch it, because I want you to watch. This is important. This is an example of how time mechanics or principle dynamics operates. There are value systems in play for everything you come across. There is no real objective reality. There's associations and implications that are aspects attached to values in play. If you can see those values, you can make some noise. You can do a lot of things, and you can explore yourself and your identity in magnificent ways. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Kila Salai, Terve Uni Siari Namaste.